upcoming speaker is Dr. Francisco Palao Reinés, who is also a PhD in artificial intelligence, the co-founder and CEO of EXO Works USA, an award-winning innovator, and co-author of the book Transform. He's in collaboration with Singularity University, i.e. Business School, on entrepreneurship, disruptive innovation, and exponential technologies, and has also founded several startups, some of which were acquired. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Dr. Francisco Palao Reinés.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. It's my pleasure to be here. It's actually my first time in Pakistan, and I'm very happy, at least to be able to spend here a few days, and of course to share my experience with all of you. Before, in the session with Jose Cordeiro, we saw how the technology is, well, changing the world, but also we were taking a look to some of the grand challenges of the world. And actually today, just today, is the best day in history to make business, because we have the biggest challenges in the world, but we also have access to technology that will allow us to build exponential solutions and disruptive companies that will be able not only to change the world for the better, but also to make us to make really, really good business. So I'm going to be talking about that, about the biggest opportunities that we can see today in the world, but also how to really take advantage of those. Because now that we have new technologies, we need new ways of doing business. So first of all, I'm going to introduce myself a little bit, but overall I want to focus on two of my main experiences and two of my main lessons learned. I have been building businesses since I was 19 years old, and actually the first business that I built, it was called buscaramigos.com. I did that with 19 years old, and it was a dating website. So it was a website that people, at least in Europe, use a lot in order to, well, find a wife for the future and so on. I have to say that I had a girlfriend, so it wasn't for me. It was for my friends that weren't able to find girlfriends. But it was very, very successful. Actually, 3 years later, I sold this business and was highly successful. But not only that, I did that with no money, because I was 19 years old, so I was studying in the university. I had no money. I had not even computer. I was using my father's computer when he was not working with it. I didn't even know how to code a website, and I learned how to code a website on the internet. And with no money, with no computer, and with no knowledge at the very beginning, I was able to do that, and 3 years later was acquired. But not only that, 1 year after launching the website, we received this picture of a couple in Mexico that got married through the website. So I was super happy. They were super happy then. I don't know now, but I guess so, because as you can see, it's like more than 15 years ago. But the main thing here, and my main lesson learned, was that without no money, without not even a computer, and without the knowledge, I was able to change the people's life in the other side of the world, in Mexico. And I haven't been in Mexico before, right? So that was my first lesson learned, is that anyone can access to technology and change the world nowadays. So we have this tool and this power, not only the people, but of course, all of your companies. After that, I kept studying in the university. I did my PhD in artificial intelligence, and I created my second company that was called Ajactive. And Ajactive was an AI-based company, and we were building intelligence software for the government, for large organizations, and so on. And we were growing, and everything went really, really well. But because we had a service-based business model, we weren't able to scale. So we decided to raise money and to hire a senior team, because I was around 23, 24 years, no, 25 years by this time. So I hired a senior team, we raised 3 million euros. We spent 2 years building a super amazing product based on our award-winning technology, and we launched it. And you know what happened? That we failed. We didn't sell anything, nothing at all. By the way, I forgot to mention that I also did an MBA. And the mistake was applying the MBA approaches and tools and processes to this innovative company. So after that, I kept studying. I went to Singularity University. I started to study about lean startup methodologies and all these kind of things. And well, we saved some money in the bank, so we started to create other products and companies, and everything was very, very successful. All of these companies were acquired. Some of those companies were, for example, AI-based solutions for personalized medicines, for oncology, something for tourism, and even solutions for innovation. And again, everything worked really, really well because I started to apply other methodologies, not the MBA methodologies. And this is this talk about. It's about which are the new methodologies that we should be talking and using in our current context. Basically, the lesson learned here was that new technologies require new innovation methodologies and new innovation models. And this is, again, the main thing here. So if we think about what is happening in the world and how everything is changing, as we all know and as we could see with José Cordeiro's talk, everything is changing a lot, and we have now access to technology that we didn't have in the past. And actually, all these things have a name. And I'd like to play a short video that is going to show you what is really, really happening in the world, because things are going to change so much in the upcoming years. Most of large organizations actually feel like this mammoth. They feel that something is changing out there, that there are so many things that are happening in the world, and they need to evolve. So they don't know whether to have a haircut or how to change, but because the climate is changing so much, they really need to evolve. And the evolution is happening, as we will see. Oops, I don't know. Yes. As we are going to see in the following video, the evolution is happening because now we have a set of new technologies that is bringing us to this new age. So if you can put the volume a little bit up.
We are wondering what is happening to the world. Everything is changing.
The very idea of human being some sort of natural concept is really going to change.
Our bodies will be so high-tech, we won't be able to really distinguish between what's natural and what's artificial.
Inside our own heads is the most complex arrangement of matter in the known universe.
You might ask yourself, can we get to be superhumans?
The original Industrial Revolution was driven by the discovery that you could use steam engines to do all kinds of interesting things.
But that was followed by additional revolutions for electricity and computers and communications technology. We're now in the early stages of the fourth industrial revolution, which is bringing together digital, physical, and biological systems.
One of the features of this fourth industrial revolution is that it doesn't change what we are doing, but it changes us.
So that's what is happening. We are in the early stages of the fourth industrial revolution, which is why beyond digital transformation and digital technologies. Just an example, as José Cordero was talking before, we have a revolution also in AI, which is one of my fields. And currently we have AI systems that are as smart as a mouse, right? But in a few years we are going to have AI systems that are going to be as smart as we all are, or even much more, right? So the thing is not whether it's going to happen or not, it's when it's going to happen, and we know that it's going to happen in a few years, but also what is going to be the implications, right? So in Singularity University, what we study is mainly not the technology itself, but the implication of technologies. And we like to say that there are four major implications for exponential technology. So I'm going to go through all of them. The first thing is that everything is digitalized. So nowadays, when we drive a Tesla, Tesla is not a car anymore. Tesla is actually an iPad with wheels, right? And this is the impression that you get when you drive a Tesla, because it's a digital car. But not only devices are digital, we discovered a few years ago that we all are information-based, because we can read our DNA and we can see how tall are we going to be, the color of our eyes, and everything. And this has very important implications, because nowadays we can not only read the DNA, but we can also write it, right? And we have technologies that allow us to read and to write the DNA in a very easy way. Actually, this is a competition that happens every year in the US, where high school students learn how to read and code new living beings based on their DNAs. And the winning team 2 years ago did this cat. This cat that was a mix between a regular cat and a jellyfish. So they merged both genes and they got this thing. So the cat, when it goes to the dark, it glows. It glows. And of course, the cat is not very happy because it cannot hide anymore, but this is something that is real and you can actually buy it. And this was done by kids in the high school. So these are the implications that digitalization are having and are going to have in our lives. The second thing is disruption. Everything is getting disrupted, but even ourselves feel kind of disrupted, right? Because society is not ready for an exponential change. Society, by definition, and our brains works in a very linear way. Our mobile phones are updated every few weeks. Are we actually buying a new mobile phone every year or every second year, right? However, our brain hasn't had an update in the last 50K years. And this is something that is there. So this is why we have some mechanisms, such as the amygdala, that is always scanning for bad news, right? And our brain is very, very focused on the bad news, not in the good news, right? And this is why television is so focused in the bad news. This is why also the people, we all, when we see a new technology, have the impression that something bad is going to happen. So we are not thinking the good implications, we are always thinking in the bad thing. However, history has shown us that overall, the implications of technology are positive and is not negative, right? Actually, now I'm going to show you a video where we will see how the human being reacts to new technology. As you know, the Google car is able to drive alone, right, by itself. And you will see the impression that a person that goes into this autonomous car by the first time is usually having. And this is generated by the amygdala. So, if we can see the video, yes. A little bit of sound.
Holy shit. Holy shit. There's no fucking hands on that wheel. Oh my god. What?
It's driving itself.
So this is how humanity in general face new technology. We scream, right? Because we see the change and we think that something bad is going to happen. And actually it's not happening, because autonomous cars are much more safe than regular cars or than human driving cars. But this is the typical thing that is happening. But talking about disruption, what happened with Kodak? People think that Kodak was disrupted just because the digital camera. It's much more deep, the thing. What happened with Kodak was the following. In the past, and even nowadays, we are very focused on scarcity-based business models. So most of our business models are based on scarcity, right? When you take a picture, when you used to take a picture with a traditional camera, with Kodak, we all have to think so much about when to click or not click the button, right? Because we used to have these rolls of pictures with 24, 36 pictures and so on, right? And nowadays, we have so many pictures, right? And this is why Kodak got bankrupt, and at the same time, Instagram, which was a 13-employee-sized company, was acquired by Facebook for $1 billion, right? And what happened is, again, Kodak business model was based in scarcity, but nowadays we can do as many pictures as we want. There is not a scarcity of pictures. Actually, there is an abundance of pictures. So the problem space and the business models change so much. Now it's not about whether to make the picture or not. Now it's about how to share the picture, how to find the picture, because we are making pictures with all our devices and we cannot find the pictures anymore, right? These are the problems that we are facing. So now we are coming from a scarcity-based industries to an abundance-based industries. And this is happening everywhere. This is happening with energy. This is where we are going to have abundance of energy very soon with solar panels, right? This is happening with art. This is happening with knowledge. Now we have abundance of knowledge in the internet. We can find as many things as we want, and we can learn as many things as we want in a very easy way. We have abundance of healthcare and everything. So technology is generating this abundance, and this is changing and disrupting so many industries. But not only that, the thing that we are seeing, or the phenomenon that we are seeing, is that we see that some changes in some technologies are impacting other industries, and we didn't expect that. For example, the autonomous car now is going to allow us to drive in a much easier way, and of course in a much safer way. Actually, we won't drive anymore, right? So accidents are going to be zero. We are going to live in a world of zero accidents. That will mean that the insurance companies are going to die. The insurance companies for cars. Actually, the CEO of Volvo announced it a few months ago, or actually almost 2 years ago, that Volvo is going to pay for the insurance of their cars once their cars are autonomous. So insurance cars companies are going to die in a few years, and this is the impact of some technology that is not directly related. So we see that always disruption comes from the outside of our industries, and this is something that we have to see and to watch very carefully. The third implication is the monetization. Everything is becoming free or almost free. Nowadays, we can access to newspaper and to news in general on the internet by free. Music is almost free. Even the Google car, at the very beginning, people thought that it was a very nice research project because, well, it was around $100,000 to make one of those cars. So people thought, well, it's very nice, but no one is going to buy it, right? But nowadays, the Google car equipment is around $5,000. So it's very affordable and it's very easy to buy. But not only that, now we are seeing the merge of new startups that are starting to offer new devices that we can plug into any car and convert any car into an autonomous car for less than $1,000. So things are becoming very, very cheap, and the evolution and the progress is becoming very fast, even faster than we anticipated. Actually, a great example is Airbnb. Airbnb is nowadays the biggest hotel chain in the world, while they are not owning any single hotel room. If Airbnb wants to offer 1,000 more rooms to their clients, they only need to have 1,000 more owners. That's it. But if Marriott wants to have a 1,000 more offering to their clients, they have to build a new building or acquire it. So it's the difference, right? We are seeing now how companies are evolving in this exponential way. But again, the monetization, I mean, becoming free or much cheaper is arriving to everywhere, even to the labor force. Now we are able to have robots in a much cheap way. And as we are going to see, this robot is able to do anything. We can teach to do anything in a very easy way. And this robot is only $22,000, where in the past, this kind of robots cost us millions, right? So we are going to see a very short video about how these robots really work nowadays.
Independent is required. So the people working with Baxter get a promotion from working on repetitive, mundane tasks to supervising robots that do them.
And it's only $22,000, right? And the guy here is so happy, and he's about to lose his job. But these kind of things are really happening here, right? So the fourth implication is democratization, and for me is the most important one, because everything is accessible now. We are seeing phenomena like, for example, Bitcoin, which we just finished a project with Visa and with other important financial institutions, and all of them are going into Bitcoin and into the digital currencies. And Bitcoin is a new coin. I mean, it's a coin that people are using. It's a coin that its price is going up and up and up, and it was done by one person. So these kind of things in the past were used to be done by government. Nowadays, we are seeing how such as important a key things are done not only by government, but also by people. So we all can do very important things in the world. And of course, the blockchain, which is the underlying technology, is transforming not only the finance sector, but also energy and so many others, because it's allowing us to create not only distributed systems, but what is more important, distributed-based business models. And one of my favorite examples about democratization is Jack Andraka. Jack Andraka is he was a 14-year-old, and he discovered a new diagnostic method for pancreatic cancer. He had a friend who died from pancreatic cancer when he was 14 years old, and he was so frustrated. So he started to research on Google about cancer. He started to research about pancreas. He started to research about pancreatic cancer. And at the end of the day, in a couple of years, it was after 1 year or something, he had an hypothesis or a theory about a new methodology for diagnostic pancreatic cancer. So basically, he started to send his research and his progress to different labs. Most of the labs were, well, we don't believe you because you are only 40 years old, right? But one lab that was very, very close to his home thought, okay, let's bring him here, let's talk to him, let's convince him that he's a doctor because he's not going to be right. Let's give him just a Mac and bring it home. But at the end of the day, what happened is that he was right. And he was right, and in the past, pancreatic cancer was detected in stage number 4, which means that 90% of people died. After his discovery, pancreatic cancer is detected in phase number 1. So only 10% of people die. And it was done by a 14-year-old person, right? He, of course, got all the awards in the world, but the most important thing here is the implication. Again, because we all have access to this technology, to the abundance of technology, to the abundance of resources, but also to the abundance of knowledge, anyone can do anything. And we have this generation of small kids who are actually changing the world. Now I'm going to show you my second favorite example, which is very compelling here, because here in Pakistan we have an amazing and huge textile industry, right? So we are going to see here how a 20-year-old girl is also transforming this industry in a very nice way.
My name is Danit Peleg. I've just graduated from Shankar College of Design. I wanted to create a ready-to-wear collection printed entirely at home, using printers that anyone can get. I've spent the past year searching for the best solution. I worked with leading experts in the field. I really like the result. It looks a little bit like lace. And it moves beautifully. Just imagine the potential. If you're called print your own jacket, traveling with no luggage, just print your clothes in the hotel room. Will we soon be able to design, share, and print our own clothes directly from home?
So, as you can see, a very young lady is also transforming the fashion industry. And it's not only about how it's going to be transformed the fashion industry, it's about the implications. As she was saying, what about traveling with no luggage and printing everything in the hotel room? This is going to happen because we see these clothes, and these clothes very soon are going to be the clothes of the past. And this is going to happen. This is a very early stage prototype, but it will improve. And in 10 years from now, I'm pretty sure that everything is going to be printed by 3D printers, or mostly all the clothes that we are going to be wearing, right? So this is happening. So at the end of the day, what does all this mean? This is the key thing, right? Well, that means that all these large and not only large, but overall traditional organizations are struggling because we need to transform ourselves to this new age. But it's very difficult, it's not easy, and it's difficult for a few things. First of all, because most of the disruptions always come from the outside of the industry. So for example, in the case of a big bank, the main competitor is not the other banks anymore. Are Google, Bitcoin, Amazon Payment, those are the real competitors. And of course, any new entrepreneurs who come into the industry and actually disrupt everything. These are our real competitors. Also, that the immune system is attacking always innovation. And I'm sure that this resonates to all of you. When you try to innovate, the immune system of the company always attack this innovation, right? This is actually one of my favorite examples. And we can see here how Kodak invented, how one Kodak's employee invented the first digital camera. But it was the leadership of Kodak who told this employee, please hide this invention, because if you don't hide this invention can actually kill our business. And of course, it killed it, but it was coming from the outside. So this is the perfect example of how the immune system is killing our talent and our inventions. And it's happening for a reason. It's happening because you are trying to protect your current business, but you have to do things in parallel, and we'll be talking about that later. And the last thing is that, by definition, we cannot predict exponential technologies. We cannot predict implications. Jose Cordero was talking before about how it's very easy to predict 30 linear steps, which are 30 meters, but how difficult it is to predict how much distance we are going to do with 30 exponential steps. Actually, it's more than 26 loops to the Earth, right? So it's very difficult to predict exponential implications. So at the end of the day, the answer is that because we cannot predict the future, we have to create it. So you all are here to create the future of Pakistan, but also to create the future of your companies and the future of the world. And I'm going to be talking a little bit now in the second part of the presentation about how to do it. The answer is not an easy answer, because what we do know is that the current models for businesses are not working for the next generation, for the fourth industrial revolution, and we are in the early stage of that, right? So a new a new approach that is working really well is called exponential organizations, because in the same way that technologies are growing in an exponential way, we are seeing now how new companies are growing in an exponential way as well, such as Google, Airbnb, Tesla, and many others. So we need to see how these companies are operating and do something very similar. And in the book that my business partner, my co-founder, wrote, Exponential Organizations, he basically analyzed for a few years how these companies were evolving. In the book, you can see how to build one of these companies. And I'm going to be talking a little bit about that. This book is also coming from Singularity University. Salim Ismail, who is the author of the book, is one of the founding members of Singularity University. He was studying all this meanwhile he was working there. We have a formula, we have some ingredients, because at the end of the day, what we are trying to do with these exponential organizations, what all these exponential organizations do is connecting with abundance. If you remember, we were talking about abundance of energy, abundance of knowledge, abundance of resources. We have abundance of everything. So we have to see how to connect with this abundance, how to manage the abundance, and how to grow in an exponential way. And in the exponential organization methodology or framework, we have 11 different attributes that help us to connect with abundance. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about that. But just to remember a little bit, what is happening here is that exponential technologies is driving us into a world of abundance. Now we can navigate this abundance and generate exponential organizations by applying a new methodology which is called exponential organization, or EXO. So there is a formula, and I'm going to be explaining a few of these elements. For those of you who are going to be participating in the workshop tomorrow, we'll be seeing all of these elements one by one in more detail, and you will be able to apply this methodology to your companies and to other companies that we'll be working with. The first element, which is the most important one, is called the MTP, or Massive Transformative Purpose. This is the most important thing. Nowadays, companies are not only focused on the money, and also focus on a purpose. Because the money is important and we need to keep making money, this is the key. But as I said before, at the very beginning of the talk, nowadays we are in the best moment of history to make business. And we are in the best moment of history to make business because we have the grandest challenges of the world, and also because we have technology that is going to allow us to create exponential solutions for tackling these challenges, right? So what we see now is something kind of similar what is happening with society. Society now, and millennials in particular, are not that much focused on money anymore. Of course they want money, but it's not only about the money, it's about the purpose. So we have to think for ourselves and for our companies, why do we exist? Why the world is going to be a better place because we exist. And this is the key thing here. So we need to start thinking not only about money, but how we are going to transform the whole world. And if we find a good reason for us to exist, we'll solve this problem with a disruptive solution, and we'll make much more money than we would be making with a traditional approach. So all the exponential organizations, all of them has a purpose, and now I'll be putting some examples. But by the way, something important is that the fourth industrial revolution is not only impacting businesses, it's also impacting people. Even the Maslow pyramid has been impacted by the fourth industrial revolution. I don't know if you saw it. Did you see the update of the Maslow pyramid? So it has been updated, because now it's not about physiological and basic needs, safety, love, and so on. Now, if we don't have Wi-Fi, we cannot work anymore, right? So we do need the Wi-Fi. But it's not only about the Wi-Fi. If we don't have the battery, we cannot work anymore and not even live. So it's true, and this is a joke, but it's not only a joke. It's actually half a joke, right? Because it's true that we need the Wi-Fi and the battery. But going back to the massive transformative purpose, a massive transformative purpose that I love is Google's. Google's massive transformative purpose is to organize the world's information. They are trying to do that. I mean, there are so many information which is not structured, which is not even accessible, and Google is trying to do that. So this is Google's MTP or purpose. Besides that, they have a vision, they have a mission, and so on, but it's very, very important to have a purpose. After that, we have another 5 attributes, which are the scale attributes. And as you can see, on the left side of the picture, we have the abundance of information, the abundance of resources, energy, whatever. So we have 5 attributes that I'm going to be explaining now, only a few of them, that are going to allow us to connect with the abundance. So we can see here staff on demand, community, algorithms, leverage assets, and engagement. All these 5 attributes are going to help our company to connect to the abundance. And we have, on the other hand, another set of 5 attributes, which are called the ideas attributes, which are interfaces, dashboards, experiments, autonomy, and socials. And these 5 attributes are going to allow us to manage abundance. So it's both. It's about connecting with abundance and manage the abundance. So a few examples. If we think about staff on demand, one very good example is Uber. Uber has access to unlimited and abundance of drivers. And this is because they are not hiring anyone. They are just using the drivers as a staff on demand. And this is very, very important. But this is not happening only with low-level profile of jobs. This is actually happening with companies such as Kaggle, which is a data scientist Uber. So they are a platform where you can go, and if you have a data science problem, because as you may know, hiring a good data scientist is really, really hard and really, really expensive. So you go to this platform, and they share your problem with thousands of data scientists. They come up with the best solution, and they bring you back the solution. So we have staff on demand working very, very well with so many different kind of companies and industries. And there are so many advantages, but one of them is that you are very flexible, because you don't have to have a fixed staff. You are flexible. You can grow, you can go down, you can actually change even part of your activity, because you can start changing the profile of people that you are going to be using, and so on. But in general, you can grow in a very exponential way. Another very interesting attribute is leverage asset. Leverage asset is what Airbnb does, which is not owning any asset, but only leveraging external assets in order to grow as much as they want. So they don't have this big investment to do, but they can grow as much as they want. And those are just a couple of examples about scale attributes, which are the attributes that are helping us to connect with abundance. On the other hand, we have the ideas attributes. And the ideas attributes are going to be those ones that are going to help us to manage the abundance. Because if we connect with the abundance, but we don't manage the abundance, we are going to die, right? So it's very, very important. So one of my favorite attributes to manage abundance is experimentation. Because by default, when we create a new innovative business model, we need to experiment. And actually, experimentation should be something that we all in our traditional or non-traditional companies should be doing every day, because there are so much uncertainty around us. So what happens when we have a new idea and we write a new business plan for an innovative idea? Someone knows what is happening. It's very simple. If we write a business plan for an innovative idea and we execute the business plan, this is what is going to happen. We are going to fail, always. Always will fail. Why? Because actually a business plan is a set of hypotheses. It's not just a fact of things to be executed. So what we have to do is evaluate, validate those hypotheses, and continuously iterate our business model until we find the right solution. Because again, when we innovate, any new idea, by definition, is an hypothesis. So we should be aware of that, and we should be evaluating these business models and these business plans instead of just executing everything. So experimentation is very important. So now the question is how to become an exponential organization, because I'm sure that you all have amazing companies. Most of them will be more traditional business model, which is fine, because those are the business models that are working now, although all of them are being disruptive, as you know, right? And as we were seeing in the example. But the important thing is how to become an exponential organization. The first thing that you have to do is to transform your leadership. So talks like this one, to make aware your people, to make aware your leadership that this is happening. The world is changing, and unless you change your business model and your organization, at the end of the day, your organization is going to either reduce a lot in terms of size and market shares, or basically die, as Kodak did, right? The thing is that immune system always attack innovation, as we were saying before. And this is happening always for a reason. What is the reason? Why? Well, because your current business is working. So why you are going to change or to transform something that is already working? Actually, you shouldn't. If someone tells you you have to transform your business model, that's a mistake. Because if your business model is working today, you have to keep it. You have to keep it safe. You have to improve it. But you cannot transform something that is working. So what we usually do in the methodology is, well, on the one hand, we have our current organization that, again, is working, right? So instead of transforming the business model, what we are going to do is adapting the current organization to the external industry disruption, but only adapting a little bit without changing the business model. And on the edge, outside of the organization, in a different area where our new innovation is not going to be attacked, we are going to try to create the new thing, the new business model of the future, the new generation of companies that eventually will lead this industry. So these are the EXOs, the new exponential organizations that we create on the edge of the current organization. So basically what I'm saying is that we have to keep the incremental innovation inside and to put the disruptive innovation, these crazy ideas, outside. Actually with another brand, not linked to our company, with stealth teams, and so on. If we think about an example, going back to Marriott, Marriott, which is a global brand, well, and we're actually in a Marriott, but this wasn't on purpose, actually. This was my original presentation. But Marriott, imagine what Marriott could do in the past, right? And even today. So Marriott could transform the business in order to be more disruptive and more digital. So on the one hand, we could have this Marriott on the left, which is the black one, the traditional one, and we could invent or adapt the current Marriott to be more digital. Again, and still Marriott would be selling hotel rooms, because we cannot do another thing. We have hotels, we have to sell hotel rooms. But Marriott can keep doing it in a more digital way. So for example, connecting with our Facebook or with our social media profile in a way that when we go into our room, they know our preferences and the room is going to be completely personalized to our preferences. These kind of things. Or connecting to other APIs. In general, connecting and automating everything with artificial intelligence, these kind of things. So, but keeping the business model. And on the other hand, Marriott or a big hotel chain like Marriott could be launching in the past companies such as Airbnb, Booking, TripAdvisor, and everything. So if we have to reinvent the industry, let's do it, but let's do it outside. And this is basically the foundation about how to become an exponential organization. Most of your companies might not be able to become an exponential organization because the business model and your current legacy is not going to allow you to do that. But you have to adapt it to the future in order to prevent disruption. But on the other hand, you can create exponential organizations outside of the business and outside of your current organization. And this is the key, basically. And in the future, eventually, these new exponential organizations will grow even more than your current businesses. Because by default, exponential organizations are going to be global. And this is the main goal here, as happened actually with Airbnb. Airbnb grew much more than any other hotel room, any hotel chain in the world, because they are ready and they are set up for being scalable. So, what we created, Salim and myself created a couple of years ago, was a 10-week process. I'm not going to describe it now, but just to mention, that is called the EXO Sprint. And in 10 weeks, we can make the company progress 2 years by creating all these exponential organizations on the edge, and also by finding out which are the key initiatives that they have to implement inside to overcome external industry disruption. We have been doing that, and I'm going to be sharing my experience and my lesson learned with all of you, with several companies all around the world, and has been working in a very successful way. And also, we are writing a book, and you are going to have access to this book just by being here in the conference pretty soon, because we are going to give you a digital copy of the book. And in this book, we are open sourcing the methodology, because we want, and our purpose, by the way, our purpose is that every single company in the world go through this process in order to transform them for the fourth industrial revolution. With or without us, we don't mind. So this is why we are actually opening up the methodology, and we are creating this book, and you will have access to the book, and you will be able to run this process within your companies. Along if you want, or with our help, of course. At the end of the day, the summary of everything is that we have all this fourth industrial revolution coming, actually is already here, is why beyond digital information or digital technologies. This is generating abundance of everything. The exponential organization is a new approach, a new management practice that is helping us to take advantage of the abundance and to generate exponential organizations that are actually currently conquering the world in different industries. And well, if you have a traditional or an established business, or even if you want to create a new organization, there is this EXO Sprint methodology that you will have access to very, very soon. At the end of the day, the goal is basically to see how this mammoth that we saw at the very beginning of the talk should be evolving. Because we cannot predict. I mean, if someone tells you how you should be transforming your business, is again another mistake, because you cannot predict it. The only way of predicting the future is by creating it. And you need to experiment, you need to try, you need to do several things. And at the end, you are going to come up with the idea. But it's not possible to predict, because no one knows. People and companies are predicting, but are predicting from a linear way, which is more incremental innovation. So the current industry, how the current energy industry is going to evolve, this is something that is known. But how the next generation of business models for energy are going to look like, no one knows the answer for this kind of thing. So you have to do it yourself, and you have to do it through the process. At the end of the day, we have a scarcity-based business model nowadays that are most of the traditional companies that are not connected to the abundance, and the exponential organizations are connected to the abundance. And at the end of the day, at the end of the presentation, I just wanted to finish with a couple of messages for millennials, because this is all about rising with the millennials, and this is all about how to understand millennials in this new age that we are living, and in the context of the early stages of the fourth industrial revolution. So I have a few advices for all of you in terms of how to connect with millennials, and how to really make our companies better and transform our companies living in this millennial age that we are living. First of all is awake. I mean, you have to awake. You have to see that this is really happening. all my presentation is actually very well connected with Jose's previous presentation. We have these huge grand challenges in the world, but we have also these amazing technologies that we didn't have 5 years ago, that we didn't have not even 2 years ago, and those are available for us today. And if we don't take advantage of that and disrupt our industry, someone is going to disrupt us, as happened with Kodak. So first thing is to awake, and you have to be aware of that and start trying to do things. Second thing is, don't forget the Maslow pyramid and don't forget the purpose, because current millennials are not focused on jobs anymore. They are not finding a job. Actually, most of the biggest consulting companies are struggling in order to hire new people and new talent because they don't want a career plan anymore. What they want is a purpose, and if the company that they are working for are not aligned with their purpose, they are not interested anymore in the job. So this is why it's so important in order to attract talent, to attract customers, and even to attract partners, to have a right purpose for the world, for your companies. Oops. Third, you have to leverage millennials. So it's not only about how we are going to be selling things to millennials, it's also about how we are going to be collaborating with millennials, how we are going to be hiring these amazing people that are solving cancers, that are recreating the textile industry, and so on. And by the way, most likely you are not going to be able to hire them because they are not ready, they don't even want to work for another company. But you have to see and you have to find out how to leverage their knowledge, their talent, and their willingness to do things. Most of the things are by creating ecosystem-based business models. I have not been talking a lot about that today, but what you could see before in the picture where you have a more adapted organization for the current industry disruption and other organizations on the edge. This ecosystem, this is what you should be creating in your company. So you adapt your company, you create a new ecosystem of new companies, and in this ecosystem you can create and you can partner with these millennials. So you have to really, really try to collaborate with the millennials. It's not about selling, it's about, of course, also working with some of them. And the last thing, I mean, if you really want to change the world, but if you really want to take your business to the next level, you have to take your people to the next level. So you have to facilitate people to really find out their purpose, and you have to facilitate people to work in a very aligned way to their purpose, because if people start working with their purpose, people are going to get to the next level. So remember that you can take your company to the next level. It's easy. It's just following the methodology. And the good news is that nowadays we know how to do it because there are companies that have done, and we just have to follow this exponential organization model. So again, my message here is that today, just today, not tomorrow, but today, is the best time in history for in order to make good businesses and, of course, to change the world. So I think you should be able to do it. And hopefully, once I come back here in a few years in Pakistan, because I'm liking the country so much so far, I will be able to see a few success stories here. So thank you so much for your time. There are questions or sorry? No, there are questions. No questions. Because I don't know if we have time.
Would there be any questions from the audience for Dr. Francisco? Just put your hands up. We'll get a mic to you.
Thank you. My name is Reinés. I represent Merck Pakistan. Thank you very much, Dr. Francisco, for a very enlightening presentation. My question is, what is the difference between disruptive and the exponential organization? Or is it the old wine in the new bottle?
Okay. Thank you for the question. Very good question. So the question is, what is the difference between disruptive and exponential organization, right? Well, disruptive is anything that is going to transform the way that we have to do things and eventually might even kill our company because our market and our industry is going to start operating in a completely different way. What is happening now is that because everything is moving from a scarcity-based approach to a abundance-based approach, everything is getting disruptive. Disruptive, I would say, that is kind of the problem, or is kind of the threat that we have there. Exponential organization is the answer, is the way that we can navigate disruption. So by creating an exponential organization, we are going to navigate and to deal with the external disruption, and will become the disruptors, not the disrupted. which is the main goal here. But by default, a new exponential organization is always going to disrupt the industry where it's going to be operating. So disruption is what is happening. Exponential organization is actually the answer for that.
Thank you. Any more questions? We have one more there. There's a mic behind you. Close enough.
My name is Javed Ahmed, and I have a question about these organizational immune systems that you talked about. This is fascinating. The immune system of an organization is really what has, in the first place, made that organization so strong and so healthy. This is quite a challenge, how to handle and to weaken that immune system. Can you shed a little bit more light on that?
Sure. I fully agree with your comment. Actually, in the past, in previous methodologies, and again, this is why now we have methodologies that are working really well, because we have previous experience that didn't work. Most of the methodologies were trying to kill the immune system, and this is a huge mistake, because as you just said, the immune system is there for a reason. We need to keep our immune system because it's what is making us safe, right? The immune system is there in order to protect the current business, and it's very important to keep it. What we have to do is to deal with the immune system, because if we don't overcome the immune system, we won't be able to create the next generation of businesses that we are going to need, right? So we do basically two things. As I was explaining before, on the one hand, what we do is balancing between risk and innovation. So if we have solutions that are going to keep our current business model as it is, we do it inside. And we try to adapt our current business model to the external industry disruption. This is one thing. An example of that, there is now a huge trend about sharing economy, right? Cars now are starting to be shared among different platforms. So we were working with a car manufacturer, and what they did in order to adapt their current business model to the external industry disruption is that they are creating cars that you can open the car with your Facebook account. So it's very easy to share the car with other people. So they are adapting something to the external industry disruption, but they are not changing the business model. And this is something that the immune system is not attacking. But if they try to create a new platform for sharing cars within the car manufacturer company, this is going to be attacked by the immune system because it's a completely different new business model. So what we do here is to create everything on the edge. We created the new and the disruptive business model on the edge, with new teams, with new brands, with everything completely new. And the brand is important to have a new brand, because if we keep our current brand, we are putting our brand in a risk, because we are creating such an innovative and actually risky business model that we cannot keep our current brand because there is a reputation. This is one of the things, keeping inside the incremental innovation, outside the external innovation. But there is a second thing, which is we have to keep our DNA. If we let external consultants come to our companies and tell us what to do, most likely the immune system is going to attack us, because we are not keeping the immune system, the DNA. So instead of consultants, our approach is using coaches. So our own employees, our own teams are the ones that are going to be thinking what we should be doing, both internally and externally into the company. So if we are able to generate and to think with our own staff, which are the new solutions that we should be implementing, what is going to happen is that because these people are actually having the ideas by themselves, they're going to love the ideas so much that they will do it, and the immune system won't attack them. So we have to keep the DNA. This is another important thing to do.
Adil Ahmed from TCS. You've spoken of the age of abundance. So what happens to competition? What happens to business? What happens to earning a living? How does one do that? Are we talking about paradise right here on earth?
Very key question. It's almost philosophical question. But this is happening. This is happening. We are seeing how these exponential organizations are growing so much that only 2, 3, or 4 leading exponential organizations take an industry. So we see the emerge of platforms, business models, such as, for example, Airbnb. Airbnb is a global platform, or Uber is a global platform. There are certain countries where you don't have Uber and you have another one, right? But it's still something that is taking competition. So it's taking competition in a global level in terms of corporates. But what is happening is that this platform is not only the platform. There is a whole ecosystem around. There is a whole ecosystem around. And this ecosystem allows players, small players that don't want to be global, to have a spot, a place. So as a company, you have to think for yourself, what I want to do, either to become a global player, an exponential organization, or just adopt the model to be compatible with the current exponential organizations and keep a safe and maybe a smaller place in the world. But even though if you don't want to become a global player, you still need to adapt for the external disruption and to connect with abundance.
Thank you so much, Dr. Francisco.
Okay, thank you.
That was Dr. Francisco sharing his views on creating awareness for exponential thinking. I would still request Dr. Francisco if he could come on stage. I also request Surya Sarif if he could present Dr. Francisco with a plaque for today. I take this opportunity to inform you that Dr. Francisco will be doing a workshop tomorrow. Dr. Francisco will be doing a workshop tomorrow, which is a full-day workshop, and it's titled Business Transformation. If anyone's interested in registering right now, you can do so by going to the Octara desk, which is right outside this hall.